and Amberlynn Reid is back with another vlog. Episode 2 of a weekly vlog series begins not with structure, substance, or insight, but with a missing pair of earrings and a bell pepper. Truly the cornerstone of riveting content. She tells us she's overwhelmed by support, that her new upload schedule is thrilling her. She says if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Darling, you're not even trying yet, and you're already rehearsing the apology video. She speaks of structure, of filming weigh-ins on Tuesday, let's talk on Wednesday, food content on Thursday. But it all just feels like scaffolding built from Jenga blocks. It's fragile, it's provisional, and it's already wobbling. She speaks of routine as if it's a mystical force bestowed upon her by the gods of YouTube, rather than something one cultivates with effort. And we know how she's allergic to that. She tells us how she's picky about lipsticks due to her lip shape and skin tone. I think this is meant to come across as vulnerability. Instead, it just reminds us that she's pathologically capable of turning any story into a story where she's a victim. Then we see a bit of a meal out, with the camera virtually inside the food. She says she's not doing mukbangs anymore, but the lens is practically marinating in the food. Her mum's fiancé wins at bingo. The implication is joy. The execution's just confusion. It's not storytelling. It's barely coherence. It's just footage. She speaks of structure, routine, filming days, editing days. But the glimmer of discipline flickers and dies when she mentions that she might have a White Claw on a Tuesday night livestream. She doesn't know if she ordered 12 or 24. Naturally. Numbers, like boundaries, just blur in her head. And then she chugs one bottle of water, slowly, with theatrical pain, and congratulates herself dramatically. I've seen toddlers accomplish hydration with less ceremony. She films herself moaning about brain freeze as though she's just survived a polar expedition. It's not progress, it's just parody. The clip ends with her taking out the trash, an act she films with pride. She chooses to haul it around herself because she likes to do shit herself. Darling, if only that applied to your health, your editing, and your emotional regulation. She begins the next segment flushed from a live stream, doing oracle readings, basking in praise, drinking and forgetting a water goal. We're told it was fun, we're told she felt powerful. And then within minutes we're plunging headfirst into a sobbing breakdown of a Beck destiny and her eternal cancer discourse. From giggles to grief in under 60 seconds. Every so often Amberlynn drops the performance. Not to be raw, not to be real, but to escalate the stakes. To turn her comment section into a courtroom, her vlog into evidence, and her past pain into a press conference. This week's vlog turns into, unsurprisingly, a spiralling meltdown, and the subject is her cancer, again. Beck and Destiny did a stream, Amberlynn claims she didn't watch it, but she knows exactly what was said naturally. She insists that Beck was there. Beck saw it all, Beck knew it was cancer. And perhaps they did. But here's the thing. If your story was solid, if your documentation was sufficient, if your life wasn't built on public half-truths and contradictory uploads, this wouldn't be happening. She can only cry wolf so many times. She demands to know, did Beck even care about our relationship? I would counter, did you? She swore she wouldn't prove it again. She's tired of proving it. She says she doesn't need to. So naturally she does exactly that and shows us the medical papers again. More tears, more rage, more breathless declarations of how real it all was. Darling, we're not doubting the diagnosis. We're doubting your integrity. There's a difference, and it's one you pretend not to understand so you can weaponize pity yet again. You can't control your own narrative and then rage when people critique the way you've told it. You can't sow decades of deception and then expect no harvest of doubt. She says it's almost the 5-year anniversary of her remission. She should feel proud. Instead, she feels defensive, exhausted, enraged. Not because people questioned her, but because she never built the trust to begin with. You can't live as an unreliable narrator and then demand applause during the climactic third act. You cannot invoke trauma selectively and expect reverence from an audience you've manipulated for years. She says she's tired. She says she's done proving herself. She says no one listens. And she's right. Because she's cried wolf, she's screamed breakdown and sobbed into the same camera for years. So even when the tears are real, people don't care. And then, fresh from her emotional collapse, she attempts a reset. Water is unfinished, emotions are unregulated, and the live stream is deleted but not forgotten. Not by her, not by us, not by the dozens of reaction channels she claims not to care about. She calls it a failure in emotional regulation. I call it standard programming. She references the let them theory, a trend currently circulating among people who think reading one Instagram carousel equals inner peace. Let them think what they want, let them gossip, let them speculate. It's a nice idea for someone not actively feeding the speculation machine with live streams and breakdowns. You cannot let them when you're actively inviting them into every wound you've ever had. And just like that, without breath, without warning, she pivots again from trauma to bingo dobbers. From I feel so small to this bag is so freaking cute. This is the Amberlynn experience. Emotional chaos sanitized with stickers and accessories. She surprises her mother with bingo supplies, although curiously they reflect her taste. The bag, the hand sanitizer wipes, more dobbers than you could possibly use. But it's a gift, yeah. And like everything else, it's about Amberlynn, her aesthetic, her narrative. She tells us how she wipes down the bingo tables religiously, that she's invested in coordinating her bag with her dobber collection. There's now more structure in her bingo setup than in her YouTube channel. She concludes with wax melts shaped like bears, heralded as a revelation. There's no insight or resolution, just scented wax and a sense of unreliability. She's walking Twinkie, it's dark, and she injures her ankle. Again. It's a sequel to the infamous dangling ankle that once launched 1,000 memes, and now it returns like a cursed spirit. She hobbles, she waddles, she limps. She tells us heroically that the more she walks, the better it feels. She's a medical marvel. I'm sure Dr. Now is weeping with joy somewhere in Texas. We then cut to laundry, then detour into dreamland. She's been attacked in her sleep by a shark. She looks up dream meanings as if Google holds the key to her subconscious. But then, just like that, she's back on the cancer discourse. Again. She claims she did watch the clip, despite earlier saying she wouldn't. She says Beck worded it weird, that Beck knew what they were doing, that Beck remembers the smallest details but not the trauma that defined their relationship. Amberlynn, in full spiral once again, invokes betrayal as a way to regain narrative control. If she's the wounded one, she doesn't have to be the unreliable one. If she's hurt, she cannot be criticized. It's clever, but it's not clever enough. She ends with praise for her own emotional outburst. She thanks supporters, people who slid into her DMs to tell her she's valid. She insists the reaction community never believes her, never respects her feelings. But the truth is, we've seen her twist every narrative, manipulate every emotional beat, and turn every trauma into content. So when she cries, people pause. When she pleads, people remember. When she says, "Believe me," people recall every time they did, and were proven foolish for it. This vlog isn't a narrative. It's an unravelling, from swollen ankles to metaphoric shark attacks to bitter rewrites of her own past. She doesn't need routine. She needs a reckoning. And no bingo bag, lipstick, or crying livestream is going to shield her from the consequences of these performances. She shows us her planner, gushing over the illustrations. The implication is that she's a woman in control. The reality, she's just clinging to aesthetics because substance continues to elude her. She tells us she's really taking her YouTube schedule seriously. This is week 2, and she already seems overwhelmed. It's the illusion of productivity. Checklists, coloured pens, to-do lists, all crafted to distract from the fact that nothing meaningful is actually being done. She shares a hair care routine, she rubs in products like the alchemy, and then we detour naturally into flossing. She flosses before brushing, because in her words, some people floss after, but I don't understand that. Darling, what you don't understand could fill volumes. And finally, we arrive at her true passion. Not routine, not structure, not healing. Bingo. She goes once a week until she doesn't. Now it's 3 times in 5 days. Glow in the dark, cigarette smoke infused, bingo is both balm and battle. She wins, twice, then again, then again. She's euphoric, and apparently the woman next to us getting angry with her eternal luck. Amberlynn recoils, and now the joy is fear. The validation is now a threat, much like her relationship with YouTube. Of course, she ends on food. She orders a salad-type deal, and that type deal is doing the heavy lifting as always. The clip closes with her final win, another bingo, another spike of that dopamine, another moment of fleeting validation caught on camera. She smiles, she's proud, she is, for this moment, winning. But none of this is winning. It's masking, it's spinning, it's drowning with glitter pens and daubers. She then goes into a post-bingo glow, a dose of performative self-awareness. She tells us she had a really good night, and for a moment she attempts to land on peace. But peace in Amberland is always fleeting. She informs us that her mental health is drastically improving. She knows this, she says, because she's enjoying things again. Bingo, her hobbies, her mother. Of course, this is mere minutes after multiple emotional spirals, breakdowns and drama retractions. But let us not interrupt the fairy tale. She's feeling better now. Apparently. For the second time. This week. She's decided to stop sharing details from her BPD workbook. Not because it was too personal, not because it was unhelpful, but because, shockingly, not everyone applauded the performance. She says that some people weren't enjoying it. Because voyeuristic trauma journaling for YouTube views is not the same as self-growth. We're told she's on chapter 6. She's learned her attachment style, her symptom profile, her BPD type. She speaks of it like it's a Hogwarts house. And now she's done sharing. Until next week, probably. She reminds us again that borderline personality disorder is part of who she is, because obviously we're never allowed to forget that. She's accepted it, she's tired of it, and she's working on managing her emotions. And yet, emotion is the currency of her channel. Outbursts, live streams, sobbing, spiral, recover, repeat. Every step of progress she claims is immediately undercut by all her public unravelings. Because control, true, quiet, private control, does not generate views. But chaos does. In the next clip, she asks the age-old philosophical question, which version of me is real, the mirror, the video, or the photo? Darling, the real you is whatever medium features you without the filters. And apparently without pants, because this is like the 4th pantsless mention of the vlog. It's not a style choice, it's a metaphor at this point. For what, I'll let you decide. She wins $500 at bingo, and apparently tips generously, which is good. Admirable, even. She chugs a bottle of water, for accountability, her words, not mine. And then she tells us how she was rattled awake by a fire alarm. Chaos ensued, pets were gathered. She evacuated in what I'm assuming was another pantsless state. Twinkie was stoic, Wasabi was screaming. Amberlynn was narrating. And then as she returned and settled, the fire alarm went off again. From meltdown to makeup, trauma to bingo dobbers, this vlog is just a fever dream in timestamp segments. It's a scrapbook of spirals, a diary of delusion, a glittery, pantsless plunge into disarray. She says she's getting better. She says she's serious this time. She says she's structured, serene, scheduled. But the truth slips through between bingo wins, rhinestones, and emergency evacuations. This isn't structure. It's just survival. And she's not thriving. She's performing the illusion of it for $10 a month on members-only live streams. She attempts a little time-lapse of putting groceries away and her phone dies. Symbolism writes itself. Then we're treated to an update on her Lego project. Out of 582 steps, she's completed 475. This may be the first structured thing she's stuck with for more than a fortnight, so I'll offer a very slow clap. And then she ends by pulling 3 oracle cards. She proceeds to project her insecurity into everyone, a breakdown cloaked in spiritual affirmation. Crow magic, trust the unseen. The only unseen force here is her self-awareness. The second card brings up a mystery issue she's not comfortable discussing. And yet, here we are, with her making sure that we know there's something she doesn't want to talk about. And card 3 is about removing limiting labels, and suddenly we're plunged back into her childhood, foster care, bullying, and her recurring theme of everyone is mean to me, but I know I'm beautiful. She declares herself a beautiful, misunderstood woman, wrongly labelled by a cruel world whose only crime was existing online. For 12 years, profiting off her own dysfunction. broadcasting every trauma and refusing to change. She hopes we're having a good night, good day wherever we are. I'm not. And thus concludes another symphony of self-sabotage orchestrated with no pants, lit by bingo hall fluorescents and underscored by oracle cards desperate to be taken seriously. She claims transformation is coming, but we've seen this play before. Same cast, same script, same fourth wall-breaking monologue about how this time she means it. She doesn't. And if she does, it'll never survive 3 trips to bingo and a fire alarm before breakfast. Good night, and try not to let the delusion dangle.